Welcome, you guys. We're so excited to have you all here today. Before we get started and jump into, we're gonna go through a couple of slides just about like what Tithely is doing. So the first thing is just an overview of our incredible product suite that we have here. You guys can see that we broke our product suite down by three main categories: finance products, communications products, and our people products. We've also recently started calling them our CHMS products, because in reality, our people product is a CHMS along with Elvanto. So you can see that in finance, it's things like giving, check scanning, pay, integrations, comms, anything that needs to do with communicating back and forth with your congregants or with your members. So as you guys all know, we really want to become the one-stop shop for every single one of our users here at Tithely. So we're hopeful that we can continue to do that better and better and add in more and more exciting products throughout the next many years to come. Our next slide here is just some of our CX core values. So like I said, I'm our senior support manager here at Tithely, and myself and our CX director, Sharon, really honor and love what we do in customer experience. We want to create just an incredible experience for all of you guys. So you can see here that our core values are customer-centric, innovative, transparent, solution motivated, and partnered and invested in your success. So yeah, we just want to make sure you guys know those things, know that we're working towards those in every interaction that we have with you guys. And we're really excited to be able to partner with all of our incredible customers. And then we're going to meet the team. So like I already said, I'm our customer support manager. Matt is our product manager of our people product. And then we have our amazing Casey, who's our product coordinator. He's going to be kind of offline today, but monitoring for our Q&A as you guys have any questions throughout the entire webinar. So before we officially jump in, I just want to point out that we do have a Q&A area at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You'll be able to see that. If you guys have any questions, please input a question there, and Casey will be monitoring those and answering them as soon as possible. We don't really use the chat for Q&A just because it can get lost really quickly. So please direct all questions over there, and we'll try to get back to you guys as soon as possible. We also will be having a live Q&A at the end of the webinar as well. So if at any point you have any further questions, no worries. We'll make sure we get to them towards the end of the webinar. All right, without further ado, I think we're all good to go. Matt, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Addie. And good to see you got our memo this morning about the black hoodie with the white. Yeah, good. It's important to just be on the same page there. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for that intro, and super excited to be bringing this to you today as we kind of dive into all things background checks. As Addie mentioned, this is something that a lot of churches have been looking for. Maybe you've been running background checks in different ways. Maybe it's been a manual process where you actually have to, go down to the county, or, just do it in a much more time-consuming manner. And obviously technology's come a long way, and it's no different when it comes to background checks. So we're really excited to bring this to you. And like Addie was saying, with our whole product suite, our goal is to make your life easier, where we're making kind of those day-to-day tasks that you have to do even simpler, with saving you time. And obviously this one's, extra important because it's part of keeping your church safe. I think background checks would be the type of thing that maybe there's not always a ton of accountability on, but it doesn't make them any less important. And so it's neat for us at the team at Tithely. We like making sure that the churches, that people are giving generously, that they're able to find you through your website or through your app. But this one's great because it's kind of being able to say, hey, we also want to make sure your kids and everyone at the church is safe and taken care of, and making sure that background checks are properly run. And so sometimes if those things are challenging, they're hard to get to, or they can kind of fall to the back of the pile. And so making this right in front of you, in front of the place where you're managing your people, hopefully means that background checks are easier to run, and that they're more commonly run, and that when background checks expire, you actually know about it and can rerun another one. So we're really excited to bring this to you today. And just one quick kind of housekeeping note. This service is currently only available in the US, and that will be expanding really soon here as we begin to find other partners to work with around the world, to bring it to countries like Canada and Australia and more. And so everything we're showing to you today is going to be available to all of our US customers. And those conversations have already started, where we're going to be connecting with some other partners and hook this up for more churches around the world as well. And so just to make sure we're all on the same page about what a background check is, make sure we know exactly what we're talking about, I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about kind of the 101 of background checks. What are we actually doing here? Is it just kind of a really, are we essentially just Googling people and making sure we don't find anything bad? And, thankfully it's a little bit more detailed than that. And so background checks involve the collection and verification of a person's information from public and private sources. And so with that, there's kind of the standard, like, databases you can ping, but there's actually also a step before that where we actually confirm that the person is who they say they are, and then can take those to trusted sources, whether it be through government or different means, to make sure that everything checks out with that person. And so we're really excited for this process to be partnering with a company called Checkr, who's been doing this for years, who knows this space incredibly well, and has made sure that all those checks and balances are the ones that are required by law, and also the ones, again, that are going to keep your church safe. Within that, there's a couple of standard places. The public searches would include county courthouses, sex offender registries, domestic and international government lists. And then there'd also be a private search to say current or past employers, motor vehicle departments, credit bureaus. Basically, we're finding out all the different places that we can run a background check to say, hey, is there anything that could cause a flag on this person's file to let us know that there might be kind of more to the story here? So we want to check as many places as possible. Essentially, background checks are consumer reports, and they must be used for permissible purposes. So in essence, you can't run a background check on someone just because you're curious to see if there's something happening here. This is for either whether it be employment in your church or volunteer. There's also other business purposes that they might, that you could use it for, but really it's around running it to say, hey, you're going to become helping us out in some manner. And so you need to kind of have permission to do it. And we'll see in a moment when we look at the background check process, how they actually have to kind of authorize on their side that, yes, you can run a background check on me. Background check can be used to help create a safe and trusted environment, determine sustainability for a role, and protect an organization against liability. So again, maybe this goes without saying, but it's good to say just to make sure we're on the same page, that the goal here is to make sure your churches are safe, make sure your kids are safe, make sure that your vehicles are safe as people drive them around, all those different pieces. We want to make sure that people are who they say they are and that they can be trusted with whatever it is that you're entrusting them with. So just to kind of go through a few of the core details of what is actually getting run here, I wanted to focus on some of the specific traces that are being sent out when a background check gets run. So we do a standard social security number trace. First of all, that's making sure that their social security number is valid. We then search databases of lending institutions, utilities, schools, all those different kind of that historic data that would be out there around that social security number, and make sure that it all checks out. Does the person have any previous names? As well as it can also tell us any locations that that social security number has been associated with. And so this check is run in all of our packages. And we're going to see in a minute how those other locations can be valuable to us as well. We also run a search on the sex offender registry. And so basically this is asking, have they been convicted of any sex crime? And then of course, if they have, we want that to be notified. This does a nationwide search of all 50 states. And then also will tell you if anything is flagged, what those types of offenses were. Again, this search is included in every background check that's run. We can do a global watch list search, identifies known terrorists, money launderers, and drug traffickers. Essentially, this is where governments have kind of escalated names to a global list to let them know if there's anything concerning. Again, this one is run in all packages. We do a national criminal database search. So with this one, essentially what it does is counties have the option to report any criminal offenses to the national database. And so every single background check will run against this national criminal database to report back to it. So what we're going to do is scan that database and find out if there's anything there. But we are going to find out in a moment that not every county reports. And so this isn't 100% reliable thing. So we're going to see in a moment how we have kind of different packages to make sure that anything is found. So this national criminal database search, again, is run in all packages. So with that, now that we've kind of covered the basics, and we're going to dive in a moment into some more specifics of the packages, I just wanted to talk through what it actually looks like for you to get started. If you're interested in this and want to jump in with your church to do it, there's a couple different steps we have to do. The first one is just activating your account. What this is essentially doing is setting up your account with Checkr. So if you're already in the people space of Tithely, you're going to have noticed this past couple of weeks that a label has come up in the sidebar called background checks. If you click that, and I'm actually going to demo it for you in a moment here, it's actually only about a 5-minute process, maybe less, to actually set up your account. For anyone that might have worked with Checkr in the past, the good news is that you can actually log into your previous Checkr account as part of this setup process. So we're just going to reactivate everything for you. You might have had other custom packages you ran for that account, and they're all actually going to come right through. If you're brand new to Checkr and have never worked with them, it's just as fast, and we're going to be able to get you set up really quickly. So basically you just have to accept Checker's standard service agreement. We're going to ask for some basic organization details, including your tax ID number. You're going to choose what you want your default background package to be, which can be changed at any time, but kind of says, hey, when you start to run a background check, what do you want to be pre-selected in the list? And then finally, you're also going to activate a credit card in background checks. And that's just for the monthly billing that happens. Now, there is no recurring subscription fee to background checks. It's just a one-time order cost per background check. So it's kind of pay as you go. You might have to run 10 one month and nothing for 3 months. And so you'll only be charged for those 10 background checks. And so once you're through those steps, then you're good to go. So I just wanted to run through this. This is a bit risky. I'm actually going to go to a live demo account and show you what it is. Anytime you're using test servers and test accounts, we're going to see if it all works, because the team's actively working in here, making things better, which can cause different things. So I'm just going to click into our new people space from the left side of the dashboard. And again, if you've got a Tithely account today, people is available to you for free. And so you can jump right in here. And this is that new button that I was mentioning you're going to see pop up in your list. And so if I click into background checks here, we're going to get a blank screen that just says there are no background checks to display, order new background checks. And this is where we'll be triggered that we can get started with Checker. And so we're going to set up that new account here by clicking get started. Oh, sorry, one moment. I did warn that this was a demo account. So let's see what's going to happen. Oh, this one already has it here. I'm going to try to disconnect from Checker. And then we can try to set up a new one here. So we're going to go back to that just so you can see exactly order new background checks, set up. Here we go. So now we're going to configure Checker. And so here, what I was mentioning, there'd be kind of a standard agreement for us to check off on. So yes, I understand and agree, the Checker service agreement, that's all good. If you wanted to read it, of course, you can click into it and see kind of what that agreement all entails. Grab a cup of coffee and give that a read through. If I mentioned that if you already have a Checker account, you can actually just click this button here. If you wanted to sign right into your existing Checker account, you can do that, but let's just not do that right now. We're going to assume you don't have an account, and we're going to click set up, which is then going to take us to this additional thing. And you're just going to fill out your information for the church. I'm just going to fill in some sample data for us here. I'm a Canadian. I apologize. The only zip code I know is 90210, thanks to my childhood. And then here we go. We're going to pick the kind of type of organization, and then you'll put in your actual tax ID. I'm just going to put in a fake one. And now the next step from here is to choose our default background check package. And so this is just going to load up, and it's going to give us some sample ones. This is demo data. We're going to go over in a moment what the actual packages look like. But here you can pick kind of, we most commonly run a standard criminal package. So there we go. These will be starting from $8 a check. And then here we can actually either, if you have an existing card on file with us, you can just select that, or you'll be prompted to add a new card if you don't have a card on file. Again, this is just where the background checks will be billed to when they get run. So I'll click continue because I'm happy with that card being chosen there. It already exists. That's okay. We knew that that was going to be the case because we had disconnected that previous account. So that's all right. We knew that we couldn't set up a new account. So I just wanted to kind of show you that initial setup step, and then we can continue on in a moment to look at the next steps from there. So then we talk about actually ordering a background check. Now we want to, again, I mentioned at the start of this that we want to make this as simple as possible for you to be able to go in and order background checks. Again, if it's something you have to do on a daily, weekly, or even monthly basis, we want this to be super straightforward, no kind of complexity to it. And so we made a couple different places where this is possible. You can do this through your dashboard directly in people, where I just showed you on the left side, but also you can do it directly through a person's profile as well, which is exciting. And one thing to make your step even easier is we can order multiple background checks at one time. So maybe you've got a list of 6 new people who volunteered to sign up for kids on Sunday. You can jump in on Monday morning and just search for all 6, pick the background checks you want to run on them, and go for it from there. Bear with me for 10 seconds, just so that we can demo this for you. I'm going to log in to an account that I know has an active account set up. So just bear with me for a moment here, just because that other one would be locked out. Okay, this one should work for us here. So now we're going to go into, here we go. We can see some sample checks run. So I mentioned you can do this directly through the dashboard here. What I'm actually going to do is make sure that I've got an account for myself set up here that I can just run it on. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So we can click into this add new button in the top right. Will actually give us the option to pull different people up here. And here I can, search for anyone in the whole system. We can add lots of people into here. And I mentioned that we'd be able to kind of pull up different profiles on them. So I can say, I want to run a pro package on this person. I want to run a standard package on this person. Maybe there's someone else who you just want to run a basic motor vehicle driver check on. So that would be kind of the driver motor vehicle record here. And so we can see kind of different costs or the different specific parts of those searches. And again, we're going to dive into the specific packages in just a minute. What I actually want to do here is show you what the candidate experience looks like. So just bear with me here. I'm actually going to pull up myself. I think it was this one here. Bear with me. I'm going to save us some time. There we go. Yeah. We're going to pick that. We'll pick the standard criminal package to run on that one. And I'll say order background checks and see if we hit success on this. There we go. So invitation has been sent to Matt Morrison. And so in a moment here, I should be receiving an email. If it doesn't come in real time, I will jump over and we can always come back to this in just a moment here. All right, I'll hold off on that for one moment. I can run us through some other slides while we're waiting for that to come through, and then we can proceed with actually what the candidate experience is on their side. So next up is kind of talking through some of those specific packages and pricing. Now, there's a little bit of complexity here, but I think I can explain it in a way that actually will make a lot of sense and go from there. So I mentioned earlier what was included in every background check, and that's essentially what the basic package is. It's going to give us that history of counties that person's lived in. It's going to give us the sex offender check, the global watch list check, and the national criminal search. And so it's the most basic check you can do. And it is significant in that there's lots of different registries we're going to search for in that, but we're going to see in a minute where this could be potentially lacking if you really want a more in-depth package. And so to show that, we're going to jump to our next package, which is the Tithely standard package. And so this is a $16 check, so eight additional dollars from the previous one. And what this is going to do is it's specifically going to find the county that that person currently lives in and make sure that it goes and does an in-depth check at that county level. And so the last one just searches national, which depends that every county's reporting to it. And we saw earlier that that's not the case, that not every county reports to national. So there's a potential with the basic check that you're going to miss something that didn't get flagged. And so with this check, we're saying this person lives in our county. I want to search this specific county to find out if there's anything criminal that this person has done in that county. So you're seeing quickly how there's kind of a little bit more of a significant check to it. But if that person has moved any time in the past 1 month, 6 months, or 7 years, we're missing any place they've moved from. Again, it's only checking the current one. So the next package up, we're going to jump to the Tithely Pro package, is the $27 check. And what this does is it searches for every county that they've lived in the past 7 years. So if they came from, they're in LA now, but they came from Ohio or they came from Florida, we're going to check all those places to make sure that any place they've lived in the past 7 years gets checked. And it doesn't matter how many they've lived, we're going to check all the counties. And so you can kind of see how we move to this third tier and we get a much more in-depth picture of what this person's history looks like to make sure that everything got checked. So depending on the level of trust you're putting into them, depending on whether or not they've, that they are new to the neighborhood or new to the county, you might want to run a more significant check on them. And so, if this person's just greeting someone at the front door, maybe an $8 check's okay. But if you're trusting these people in the nursery or a classroom, we're going to want to make sure that we've done taken our full due diligence to make sure everything checks out. And so that's the difference in those different packages, is really checking at a county level where they've come from. Now, we also, in addition to this, have the option of a $4 add-on that you can add to any one of those basic standard or pro checks, and that checks motor vehicle records. So if you're trusting this person with a church vehicle, or they're doing any kind of driving for one of your events, you might want to run a motor vehicle check, make sure that their license checks out, that they haven't been in too many accidents or anything like that. And so you can add that $4 to any one of those checks, giving you Tithely Driver Basic, Standard, or Pro, which you see slightly increase the cost of the package. Now, there is one additional piece here to touch on, which is this thing called pass-through fees. And so this is standard with any background check service. This isn't unique to Tithely and Checker, but what's happening here is there's essentially additional cost that can come with the background check. And that's what happens when you do third-party access fees. Now, not all counties charge this, not all databases charge this, but there can be times where if a specific county is pinged to get it to send data for the background check, they're actually going to pass through an additional fee. Sometimes it's $2.50, sometimes it's $5. It can actually go as high as $95 for some counties. I think specifically New York State is well known for that in this space. But it can be an additional fee that comes through to you. And so there is no markup on these fees. We're not taking anything either on the Checker or Tithely side. But those fees do end up getting passed through. And so what that can mean is you can be running an $8 check, but all of a sudden it might ping a county that costs an extra $5. And so your $8 check just became a $13 check. This is an important piece that I don't want you to get any surprises on your invoice, or I want you to be able to explain them to your team of why the cost might be more than you expected. So I did want to just quickly explain how this works. So if you run a standard package, which again, we saw runs a check on the current county that person resides, that's a $16 package, and they reside in Jackson County. So what's going to happen here is we're going to search Jackson County into their database. We're also going to search the national database. In the most standard situation, and this is more common, is to not have a pass-through fee, but they do happen. Jackson County doesn't charge additional fees, so we don't have to worry about that. The national database doesn't get flagged. Nothing came up when we ran this on this person. So therefore, your total cost was $16. That one's straightforward. Again, this is the most common scenario. But I want to show you what happens when a pass-through fee does happen. Let's say you run a standard package on someone in Perry County, Arkansas. And so Perry County happens to have a fee. So we're going to run those same two checks where we check theirs and we check their national database. And so they have a $5 county fee that they're going to charge when we ping their database. Good to know. But also, let's say when we ran this check, the national database flagged something for an offense in York County, Maine. So that county had reported to the national database that they did something. Well, we're going to go check what happened in York County, Maine to see what that's all about. And that's going to incur another $31 county fee, because that's just so happens what that county charges. So all of a sudden you ran a $16 check, but you got a $52 charge. So hopefully that helps explain what pass-through fees. What we're trying to do here again is avoid any confusion as to why did this cost more than I expected. And what's happening here is things are getting flagged or counties are charging money, and we need to make sure we go in and find out what's happening. From what I understand at this stage, there's no ability to kind of have to pre-approve the fees or anything like that. They just happen as part of the check. And so again, standard with any background check processing, there's nothing creative we're doing here or extra we're doing here. This is all just part of the process of saying, this is what counties charge, and this is what needs to be found out if something gets flagged on the national database. So hopefully that makes sense. Happy to speak to any more of that. Again, we'll have a time for Q&A at the end if that's helpful. So before we dive into the life cycle of a background check, I want to dive back in here, because while I was chatting there, my email did come through. So let's pull this up here. And I actually did get a Checker notification saying Church of the West has asked Checker to run your background check. And so as a candidate here, I see this, presumably I've just volunteered for Church of the West. So I'm expecting this was going to come through. And I'm like, yep, that makes sense that they're running that. I should get my background check done here. So I'm going to click this. And what they're going to do is kind of be brought to this. I think it's a 4 or 5 step process to just actually proceed and run that background check on me. Now, for the sake of the sample data in Checker, what I'm actually going to do is put in some data they've told me to put in there when we're running kind of the sample here. So bear with me as I get all this loaded in. That way they're actually going to run a legitimate check on a test account here. Just looking to the side here to get all this data correct for you. So 1983. And so again, what we're doing here is this is better than you having to store all this data and send it. We're just going to ask the candidate for everything, which is great. Phone number, I don't think matters. Let's just do. All right, email doesn't matter. That's good. Continue from there. So here they're going to have a summary of rights, just saying they acknowledge all these details. Click continue from there. Disclosure regarding background investigation. So this is just saying that the church will be given the results of the background check. They understand that, yes. Now this is a specific California disclosure because the address was in California. That's why there's some specific disclosure statements. I think because the organization's information was in California. And the candidate here has the option to receive a copy of the consumer report. If they'd also like to see what turned up on their check, they can do that. And then final authorization. I say, yes, I am in fact not a robot. And I'm going to say, this is the person's name. We'll submit that through. There we go. Now, if they want to watch a little movie, understanding background checks better, they can do that. But if we click back over into here and actually refresh this screen, we should have been sent back a notification from Checker that, yes, this check is now pending, which means it's in process here, which is great. There's always, we don't store on Tithely's servers or on Tithely's side any details of the background check in terms of what was flagged, what we learned about that person. We have that all living inside of the Checker account. Checker, again, is kind of, that's their world to store that. We just want to keep whether or not the background check cleared, or if there was any issues. That's all we want to know. So you always have the option here to view in Checker, which would prompt you to log into your Checker account and find out more details on that. But what's really neat here, I'm going to see if this happens in real time or how fast this happens. I've found that these checks actually come back within 2 to 3 minutes. So we'll actually keep an eye on this over the course of the next few minutes of our time here. And we probably will see this update. I can click in here if I want to see more details of how this all is going. So it says the status there, pending. I can see who initiated it. Apparently I'm logged in as Lisa Simpson right now. And we can see all of that. Now, if I jump back over to our all people section, I just wanted to show you as well, because I did mention that we can actually do a little bit more from within the profile here. So if I click into this Matt Morrison profile, you'll actually see that I can also there see that there's a pending background check happening and the state of it. And if I wanted to run another background check, I can easily do that directly from within someone's profile and pick from any one of our different packages there to order one. So again, we're wanting to make this really simple for you to be able to jump in and do that. And so that brings us for that piece of it. So we're going to keep an eye on this as it happens. Needs review. Okay, so apparently the person I put in was flagged, and so that was just part of the sample data. So if it needs review, it means, hey, come check it out. You're going to want to see what we found. You know, it obviously pinged something in some database, and so at that point, you're going to have an opportunity to decide what you want to do with this background check. So just on that note, let's jump back into here. We're going to look at the life cycle of a background check. Again, this is kind of diving a little bit further into what we talked about earlier with kind of the different things that we're searching for. So we saw the process of requesting a background check. We had the candidate sign disclosures and authorizations. They then confirmed using the Social Security that we have the accurate identity. They began the process of searching for high quality data, matching identity matching filters, going through all the way here, and then basically report completed, which means at this stage, you now have the option to decide what you want to do with that check. So you can either engage the candidate and say, we're good to go. And with that situation, let's see if we've gotten down here. That's just if someone says, hey, we're clear. So Peter Griffin, he checked out, he's good to go. You don't have to do anything with this. You just know that his background check came back positive. But you see some of these came back with needs review. At that point, you can decide by logging into Checker, sometimes it's as simple as they, did a legal U-turn at the wrong intersection, and you can go, yeah, we're all good. And so you can actually update that status to make sure, yeah, what Remy Gons did, we have no problem with. It all checks out. Or you might say, actually, that's a red flag, and you can begin a different process, which is then called adverse action, which is then kind of going back and saying, hey, do you want to challenge this? Do you have any questions? Or you might just reject the candidate at that stage. And so there's a couple of different processes. Again, that's Checker space. So we can work directly with them. If you have any questions about kind of the specifics of how to handle a background check, our team and also their team as well is happy to kind of jump in and help with any of those questions. And so with that, I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the statuses you're going to see. So we saw, as we looked through the dashboard here, a bunch of different statuses. I just wanted to highlight some of those because this is Tithely University. So this is an opportunity to teach you about some of the things you're going to see. So when we first ran that check on Matt Morrison, we got a status that said invitation sent. And that means the email has gone out to him while we're waiting for him to fill out the information. That's going to be there. As soon as I completed the application, then it updated to pending, which means that they're now running all of their checks. Checker's doing their stuff on their side. If they determine that they need more information from me, maybe they need proof of identification, they need me to upload a driver's license or some other detail to complete their background check. Maybe it's another county that requires a little bit more specific information. We can get this update here that says awaiting docs. And that's just so you know that there's just more we're awaiting for from the candidate. Maybe if you're trying to get someone to volunteer for this Sunday and you got awaiting docs, you might follow up with them and say, hey, it looks like there's a little bit more detail that's needed. I just wanted to know if you would have a chance to do that. If they don't proceed with this step, I think the invitation will be good for about 7 or 14 days. I can't remember that off the top of my head, but if they do miss that deadline, then we'll hit invitation expired. And that means you were not charged for running that background check. In fact, you're never charged for a background check until the entire process completes. So if anywhere along the way, if for some reason it gets stalled or fails, you are not charged for it until the whole check completes. So if you see invitation expired, it didn't run, and you now need to go reorder a background check for this person again, and you probably want to get in touch with them directly to make sure they knew that the last time around it expired. So next up here is kind of our more complete statuses. So clear means everything checked out, we're good to go. No, nothing was flagged in the search, and this person has been cleared for that level of background check. Consider, or I think it also was when we saw needs review there, means we found something. And so it doesn't speak to any level of severity. There's no kind of report on how much was found, but what this means is you should go into Checkr, log into your account there, and find out what was found, because there's something you're going to want to take a look at. Again, from this part, you can then trigger whether or not you want to proceed with them or reject them. And then finally, we also saw in our details here, and I'll just click to open one, that there's the opportunity for an expiry date. And so there's a setting you can set inside of your Checkr settings here, where you can actually say auto expire background checks. And then you say how long do you want this check to be good for? Is it 12 months? And then you need to run another one. I talked with the church the other day that did a 36-month expiry date. And so that means, hey, we're comfortable if someone cleared a background check, we don't want to look for another 3 years. But some people might say 12, or could be whatever you want it to be. And what's going to happen is when that expiry triggers, this person's status will change from clear to expired, which once we bring in volunteer management and service planning means you might not be able to apply someone as the teacher for the third grade classroom on Sunday because their background check is expired and you need to run a new one. And so we'll let you know, we'll send notifications your way when those background checks are expiring. We may actually even have a feature that says, hey, when someone's background checks expire, just auto run it again or something like that. But we're going to make sure you're notified that background checks are expiring. And that's why that's where that status comes in. And then in addition to that, the candidate does have the option, if something is found and they don't agree with what was found, or let's say it was a false report or it brought up the wrong person in the report, they can dispute the claim. And then so they can begin the process of kind of countering what was found in that background check. And they might want to go back and dispute it, which then would bring up this status. And then finally, if you do, the dispute's been resolved or the consideration has been, you're okay with it, you then get marked complete, which means, hey, everything's okay. You've decided on your end that you're good to proceed with that. And so that's that step. Now, I do want to jump back in here quickly. We're just going to, oh no, we saw needs review was our final step. So this means that something was flagged and we begin the process. So otherwise, if it wasn't needs review, then it would have come back as cleared there. So with that, I just want to cover a few little housekeeping notes in terms of what it would look like to get started. If you're looking at this saying, yep, let's do this. One quick note is you must be the primary admin. I should have added this in the notes just to initiate the account. So just to activate Checkr and put your billing details in, you do need to be the primary admin. Once you've done that, secondary admins can then also go in and begin running background checks. And we'll be building out some permission systems so that you can kind of turn on and off exactly who's going to be allowed to do that. As I mentioned right now, this is US only, but just for anyone joining us a little bit later, that's only for the moment. We're currently exploring Canadian and Australian providers, and there's actually some other possibilities to open it up to even more countries from there. But as of today, this is just a US only service. And there's no recurring subscription or fees to this. So there's nothing that's just going to automatically bill you each month. It's actually a free monthly service, and then just pay as you go as far as the background check. So we looked at the packages earlier of 8, 16, and 27, I believe. And with those will only be charged as you order them. And so if you didn't run any background checks for 6 months, you won't see any charges for background checks at all. And the credit card is required during the setup to process the billing of monthly orders. And so just as a note to have that handy if you do decide to proceed. And again, anyone with a Tithely account has this available to them today just by clicking on the people option in the left sidebar and then jumping right into background checks. And so one other fun note, just our partners at Checkr, they're awesome. They just wanted to help incentivize people to get rolling with it. And so if you just go set up your account just to link it up with Checkr, there's $25 Amazon gift cards in it for you, which you can give to the church or go buy yourself something nice, but they just wanted to kind of celebrate the launch of this new products. And so I think there's still a number of those left if you wanted to dive in and get started, and Checker will be in touch with those. And so I think that kind of concludes the teaching portion of this. And I think from there, we'll bring Addie back on and she can jump into our Q&A.
Hi guys, Matt, there are no questions, which is
All right.
kind of like an unheard of experience. Casey's done an amazing job of answering them, but I was also looking at the questions just throughout the webinar, and there were very few that popped up, which just really speaks to like how organized this product is. I love seeing this product demoed. There are so many great intricacies to it, but as you can tell, our team has worked so hard to make this streamlined and seamless as possible for all of you guys. So if you do have any questions, put them in really quickly. We'll try to get to them as I'm going through the last couple of slides, but just send them in right now. And while we're doing that, I'll just go through a couple of things. If you guys don't get any questions answered today, you can always email us at support@tide.ly, and we absolutely will be able to answer that directly. Kathy did just send a question in. If the primary signs up, can they see the background checks? And I want to do this for children's ministry. Yes, Kathy. As long as you are the primary, you will be able to see anything with the background checks. Unfortunately, though, you're not going to be able to do that if you're the secondary admin, right, Matt? It just has to be the primary admin.
Yeah, the primary has to set it up. And then as soon as they've done that, the secondaries can jump in and start running background checks as well.
Perfect. Okay. And then Sylvia wanted to know settings. This is how long to hold the background check or how far back to go for the check.
So the settings is how far do you want to view that check as valid? And it seems like a lot of, from the conversation I've had, it seems like a lot of churches kind of have an internal decision on this, that you said, hey, we think background checks are good for a year or 2 years or 3 years. It's funny talking with Checker, and there's actually some good discussions around this. Technically, a background check expires the day you run it, because the person could go commit a crime that day and you wouldn't know it until your next background check. And so we're going to explore some possibilities with them in terms of how can we do a bit more of a continuous check, but that'll kind of come with time. But you have to decide, what are you comfortable with as a church in terms of when you want to run your next one. And so you're setting, when do you want to be notified that this check is no longer valid in your eyes? As far as going back, that's where those packages come into play, that you want to probably run the pro package if you want to go back as far as 7 years.
Got it. That's great. Kathy had a follow-up question about secondary and primary admins. Can the secondary see the checks after they've sent them out as well, or no?
Yes, that's right. They can see the checks. Now, the only people that could actually go in for more detail in here is actually the people who had the Checker login. So you're going to see when I click this button that I'm actually, well, let's see if I'm logged in right now currently. No. So this is what will happen. So you'll be asked to log into Checker. So at this stage, you as a church have to decide, who do you want to have the Checker login? Because this is the person who can go and actually see, hey, this was the crime that they were flagged for. This was the, there's different things they find on here. Again, it's U-turns, or I saw one where someone like had a rear ender and they brought it in here. So it's different levels of things, but who do you want to have access? Because we're keeping it very vanilla at this level. It's either cleared or just you probably want to take a look, and that's all we're storing on this side.
Yeah, so Kathy, this might be something to kind of talk about internally. And if you do want to update a different primary admin to have access to that, you can work with our support team on that. But like Matt said, we want to make sure that we're keeping everything pretty secure on the Tithely side. Once you get into the Checker login, though, you can see every little thing. So whoever has access to that should have that privilege. Elise Knitzer asks, is there a list of documentation that may be needed for each check, so as to give a heads up to the candidate to have that information at the ready? I'm not actually sure about that, Matt. I know we have some documentation for our teams, but I think it's just in the moment they have to input like their name and their social security. It's really not that extensive. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the only thing I've seen at this stage. I haven't seen any kind of more significant documentation required. What I gather, and I'm trying to go back in our initial conversations with Checker here, is I think it's some counties may require it. So basically what happens is when a county gets pinged, they might say, well, if you want that, you need to show to us that you have this person's driver's license. And then at that point, they would reach back out to the candidate. So I think it'd be hard to pre-provide anything like that. But yeah, we may learn in the process here. Where admittedly, our team's a little bit new to this, and so some of those edge cases we might still find along the way here.
Love that. And then Deborah, this also works for your question as well. Does the background check process qualify for the Pennsylvania laws for criminal and child abuse? Yes. So Checker works with each individual county and state across all of America. So any request that we're getting, no matter where you guys are living within the United States, will qualify for that. Do we do FBI checks, Matt?
The only one I've seen is I haven't seen an FBI database with the different pieces. These the information I showed in those initial slides were all directly from checkers. So to my understanding, those are the pieces we're checking. And now it's possible. I'm trying to think again to some of those details that those organizations report to the national. And so FBI might report to the global watch list or to the national database. But my understanding is kind of all of them are reporting to a central place in that.
Okay, great. All right. I think that's everything we have. Like I said, email support@tide.ly for any other questions, you guys. We'll be happy to help out there. You guys can join our Facebook group. We have a Tithely Insider Facebook group that you guys can talk to each other on. My wonderful support team also monitors this to give great insight for you all. So if you ever want to join that, please just go ahead and follow this link. Also, sidebar, this whole presentation will be sent out to everybody who attended today. So no need to take notes or anything like that. I'm going to be sending it out hopefully by the end of day today or first thing tomorrow if needed.
I just want to give one little plug for the Facebook group. So if anyone jumped on there recently, Casey and I actually were on there a few weeks ago, just giving an update on people and kind of letting you know about background checks. Our whole team is going to start, or sorry, I should say our whole products team is going to start getting in there. So with more updates. So if you're not kind of tuning into it regularly, you can look forward to giving updates, anything from Therese and our sites and apps teams. And then also Casey and I will keep coming in here because we got a lot of stuff coming. So that's a great place to keep an eye on for it.
I love that. That's such a good plug. That's perfect. Our next webinar is going to be on check scanning. We are getting our date TBD right now. And so I'm going to be sending out some emails as soon as we get this finalized with our product team. But we're waiting for a couple of things to fall into place for check scanning. And then we'll be absolutely doing a webinar in the next couple of weeks or a month on this guy. And the last thing is on-site training. So this is kind of a funky one because I know that we're still in like a COVID season, but with the vaccination coming out and a lot of like great changes that we're seeing, we are providing on-site training, whether it be via Zoom or whether it actually be in person. So if this is something that you guys are interested in, we can train on for every single different types of our products. Like none of them we won't be able to train on. So you can email Sharin directly. And again, I'll be sending this out to everyone so you guys can just take that email right from this documentation. And I think that's everything. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you to Matt. Such a wonderful presentation today. I hope you guys learned so much. Resources will be following up directly. And like I said, if you guys have any other questions, email us at support@tide.ly and we'll help out in whatever way we possibly can. All right. Thanks all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.